Hello, everyone. I'm Father Christopher Brashears, and I kind of wanted to start something a little bit new, and that's book reviews. I feel like it's a little bit like reading Rainbow, and where we have the section where the kids kind of come out and talk about their books that they've been reading lately. But I think that's really important, especially as we continue to develop our Catholic understanding, that we grow in our knowledge of the Church and of really all things that pertain to the holy life. And so I want to today emphasize kind of on this first book review, Sexual Wisdom for Catholic Adolescents by Richard Wetzel. This is actually a really fascinating book. I've been looking for some time for some good resources that I can especially recommend to parents out there, and really kind of how to help you all foster the faith amongst your children. And one of those areas that I think is very, very important is this idea of how do we talk to kids about sex. Because once you have the discussion about mechanics, well, then this whole conversation can turn a little flat. Or in the sense that, once you've kind of covered those mechanical parts of it, then what else is there to say? And this is where I think this book comes in a very big help, because there's stuff throughout all of this book that is just excellent, excellent, excellent material. Now, I will say, kind of as a first heads up, it doesn't have an imprimatur, it doesn't have a nihil obstat. These are two of the permissions of the Church that they give us so that we can have some assurance of the material in there. However, I've read through the whole book, and I've not found anything even remotely questionable in relations to church teaching. In fact, I think it's very clear and very straightforward. Now, it's a little dated in the fact that there are some new issues that come up about transgenderism that aren't included in this book or aren't referenced in this book very much. But that still doesn't mean that this isn't a great book. It really does clearly line it out. Now, it says that under there that it's a home-based comprehensive course for older teens. And I think that's true. And I think that this is really kind of set up more along the lines of having kind of these intermittent talks. Now, as we move forward and as we start to provide more in the church for this, we'll start looking at developing a program here to help in that process of education for the youth. Not so much about just the mechanics, because that's the simple thing, but the more profound thing is, what does the church really teach about the good of sex, the beauty of sex, and has always done so. This is what's really important, and I think this book highlights that extremely well, and brings that to the forefront. So I would highly suggest this to you all, especially if you have teenagers in the house, if you have those who are getting ready to be teenagers, and you're going to need to start talking about these subjects and talking about how to really have a talk about sex. Because in that, I think there's a lot that's been poorly done. I don't blame my parents, but I think that it wasn't real well done with me, and I think the world then filled in all of those blank spots. And this is the chance for you to promote the church's teaching and to do it in a way that's just straightforward, not some kind of crazy system that you have to come up with, not crazy analogies you have to deal with. It's just a very plain and straightforward, great presentation of the church's teaching on sexuality. In addition to that, there are some other resources I'm going to bring up in the future that kind of help to supplement what I think is maybe a little lacking in this book, a little more of the spiritual side of it, but that's not really what this book intended to do. So what I think it did, I think it was 5 stars. I think it did a great job of what it purported to do. You can find this book on Amazon and a lot of other places out there. I'll go ahead and add a link in the video description below, but go ahead and pick it up. Give it a look, because I think you'll be really impressed with how well it helps you to equip your conversation with your teenagers. It's also a book that's really kind of meant for them. So then after you've read it, you're kind of understanding of it, and then you can enter into these conversations with them so that it doesn't have to be that kind of awkward situation where you're talking about sex with your parents. Instead, it's that you are helping to reveal to them the great beauty of sex, and how the church has always promoted this great gift of God the Father to us all.